Hi, friend! One of the most frequent topics of discussion among fans of the series is usually what's the best starter, or what's the best Pokemon overall to clear each game. But this is not just a game. It's a team game, and Pokemon are not alone but surrounded by their teammates. That's why today we'll try to get the best possible team for each Pokemon game. It's not just about getting the 6 with the highest stats, and that's it. The idea is not so much the strongest team, but the most optimal one, considering things like how easy and early in the adventure you can get the Pokemon, how they perform against the important battles of that particular game, and that the team is balanced. Note also that we are going to skip Paldea because, at least at the date of this video, I'm still waiting for the DLCs that will surely give a lot to talk about. It has always been said that Venusaur is the easy mode of Kanto, but it has never been so for me. Surely it completely sweeps the first gyms, but in return it's slow to use and doesn't have as many offensive tools. This time we'll stick with Blastoise. For me, the most balanced of the three. Equally useful in the most important battles and the one with the best variety of moves by far. Besides, choosing Bulbasaur would not be the best option considering another poison-type beast we can get just as early in the adventure, Nidoking, who basically destroys everything from the very first badge. If we keep going with the idea of optimizing the game, an evolution is almost mandatory and all three are good, but Jolton is another level. In the first gen, with Thunderbolt as the prize TM for beating the third gym, combined with its speed and critical performance, it's too good to be real. Arcanine will be our fire type. Obtainable at the same time, just at the moment when you can access evolution stones and more necessary it is. We have to wait a bit longer to get Snorlax, but being the core of the competitive play of that era, it could not be absent here. It's very accessible, so much so that it's impossible to advance without battling it, and its only weak point is speed. But in return, it provides that role of a wall that such an offensive team needed. The finishing touch will be Articuno, because even if I'm hesitant to consider legendaries for this kind of videos, in fact, I don't think there are many besides it. So if there had to be one, it was undoubtedly Articuno. Its stats are obviously incredible, and despite being accessible at a relatively late point in the adventure, it's not that late for a Pokemon of its category. If you catch it at that time, it will be at a very high level for that part of the game, practically handing on a platter everything that is coming until the end. It learns its best moves immediately without TMs, and of course we needed something to fly. What a great team. In yellow, there are some differences. Now, the 3 starters are available, but not at the beginning of the game, which surprisingly makes Charizard the best one. Getting it right after Brock and Misty, which were precisely the battles it was struggling with the most, it gained a lot of potential. On the other hand, the one that was the best for me is left out by the contrary. You get it at a very low level at the time of the gyms that destroys it. A team ultimately similar in spirit, with some adjustments. I hope that not using Pikachu in yellow doesn't go against any law, but it's just so bad, sorry. No one will follow us this time. The teams can stay the same perfectly for the remakes, so let's go to Johto. By itself, Totodile has the purest smile and is the best performing starter, but this time we are considering the best team and not the starter separately. So we will go with Cyndaquil for the simple fact that there are much more and better water type options than fire to replace them. Ampharos is great in every way, easy to catch, powerful, versatile, great hair, and Lapras. I have to admit that it requires a bit more patience than other water types that are also pretty good, but considering how long the adventure is and that its Ice Beam is the best move of that type in the game and the champion is who he is, it will be 100% worth it. Espeon is not the easiest Pokemon in the world to get either, but with love and the Haircut brothers, it's obtainable pretty early, even before the 4th and 5th gym where it destroys everything, becoming one of the best performing Pokemon of the whole game and the most interesting evolution for the adventure, especially considering that the evolution stones are not exactly easy to get here. Kenya, the Spearow you steal from that guard is tier S and perhaps the best choice for flying Pokemon for the simple fact that it will grow much faster than normal thanks to the experience boost. You can consider it if you don't feel bad, although I certainly wouldn't. Not because I feel bad bad for the guard, but because it makes me uncomfortable that some Pokemon gain levels faster than others and the team levels are unbalanced. We have a hole left and there is always room for the king. Exactly, Nidoking. Available soon enough if your mother sends you a Moonstone. I'd better go for the one in the ruins of Alph. This time, we will make a very different team for Crystal as Ampharos is not there, but instead Teddiursa can be obtained at the beginning of the game in the Dark Cave, unlike in Gold where it did not appear until the end. A great addition. But we still miss Ampharos, since in this game an electric type is very necessary. Electabuzz is a good substitute with great covers, and you can get a shiny one if you are lucky with the mystery egg. Lapras and its Ice Beam with Stab still seems superior to Suicune in this game, so there will be no legendary this time, and the new Crobat's an amazing addition as a flying type. The remakes also deserve a quite different team, mainly because they changed things a lot from the originals, with all the changes in TMs, and especially the split of physical and special moves. Totodile this time becomes the best by far, thanks to that same separation that makes Feraligatr a real monster. Heracross manages to earn a place, because although it's still a bit complicated to hit a tree with it, it improves a lot its variety of moves compared to the originals. And thanks to the great Pokethlon, evolution stones are no longer the Philosopher's Stone, and Pokemon like Arcanine become viable. Cool, let's move to Hoenn. We can discuss many things here, but the starter is not one of them, so let's see who goes together with Swampert. Oddly enough, it shares types with both legendaries, so it seems like it has taken them out of the team like that. Well, let's see. Gardevoir is again quite weak at the beginning, but it reaches its peak at a reasonable level and is generally a very good Pokemon, the best option of its type, so there is not much debate that it should be here. From there on, the range opens up. In this region, there are too many options, and in fact, I get quite different teams for each edition, so let's go straight to the verdict. In Sapphire, surprisingly, Blaziken manages to triumph, since Ludicolo is available, and although Swampert is better as a water type, I consider that it's not with so much difference as to compensate that in the region, there is no fire type comparable to Blaziken. On the other hand, in Ruby, I have to make a place for the eternally underrated Zangoose. That Sword Dance at level 10 is crazy, and for the trauma of not repeating types, Crobat sneaks in once again to replace Swellow. As for Emerald, we were going to limit legendaries and such, but you know, Rayquaza is obtained at the end, yeah, but you just have to throw the Master Ball in its face to win the league. Obviously, there will be those who don't want to spend it or use it, but we are talking about the game in terms of optimizing the team, so it is what it is. As for the remakes, Mega Evolution messes up everything, and you have to keep it in mind. In my opinion, the most abusive one in-game is Mega Gyarados. So making the Dream Team is more about looking for partners for it than anything else. Sinnoh time and space. My favorite starter is Turtwig, but Chimchar has the obvious advantage because without it, good luck getting a good fire type. Unless you want to do like a certain Elite Four member and use alternatives or Rapidash. The 3 starters are excellent, but none is as necessary as Infernape. As if you don't choose it, you will practically generate a weakness in the team. Once that's clear, it's easy to look for Nakamas for it. Staraptor is probably the most used Pokemon in history, and rightly so. The combination of speed, brute force, and good durability thanks to its Intimidate and Roost is another level for regional birds. It's accompanied by another trio of classics of the generation, Roserade, Luxray, and Floatzel. And since I'm going with the most overused team in history, let's try to close with something original. Just kidding. Bronzong. If you really want a steel type, you could perfectly throw a nest ball to Dialga's face and take it instead in Diamond, but look at that cute face. Are you really not gonna let it join the team? Don't worry, it wouldn't be the first time someone has called me weird for thinking this Pokemon is cute. Platinum gives us a little bit more of fire types, so it might be a good idea to choose another one of the starters. Either one is a good choice. Turtwig is again my favorite, but it's still a bit below Piplup, mainly because of the types that are more abundant in Sinnoh, so we'll make the crew around it. Houndoom is the best of the new fire types and will be a great partner and the best boy. And Garchomp is the main reason why I think it's better to go for Empoleon instead of Torterra and Platinum. Here it becomes an amazing choice because although it reaches its final evolution very late, at level 48. Already as Gabite, it's perhaps the best Pokemon not fully evolved in game ever, thanks to its good stats, an incredible combination of types, and the fact that you can put Earthquake on it as soon as you get it, since the TM is obtained in its same place of capture. Very crazy. Oh, and the reason why it's a great option in Platinum, but not so much in Diamond and Pearl, is that in the latter they decided it was a good idea to make a stone transmutation circle at the entrance of the cave. So until you have strength much later on, you can forget about it. I would also like to include Rotom, who was originally a post-game Pokemon, but Platinum made it available very early. In fact, I would consider it as the best Pokemon in Platinum for the adventure. But without its appliances, it loses a lot of power, and they are event-based. I'm not sure that something so inaccessible is a good example of availability, so I retract a little. Here's what it would look like. What do you think? The remakes were exactly the same, so let's move to Unova, the one that has introduced most new Pokemon to date, and consequently the one that gives the most options. Unova is home to many points of view and cultures, so each type of person can establish a team with which they feel identified. Despite that, obviously there are Pokemon that stand out above the rest. The triangle of Darmanitan, Scrafty, and Excadrill form an unbreakable core, easily obtainable early in the adventure, good against most fights in the game, and exaggeratedly powerful. All three are in fact stars in competitive, and here you get them super easy. We can discuss many things, but every dream team of this generation should be built around this big three monster trio, three little piggies. I don't know, I can't think of more groups of three. Around them, Tepig is, in my opinion, the most optimal of the starters by himself, but it doesn't fit much by its type. Serperior is solid, but Lilligant is also obtained very early and can overcome it easily with the right tricks of its hands because it has hands. Its Quiver Dance and great stats distribution makes a difference, more so without the hidden abilities of the starters in normal conditions. Oh wait, Serperior does have little hands there. Samurott is therefore our chosen one, reasonably the best option of its type in the game. And for the last member, my choice is Archeops, a monster that simply destroys everything in a game where the handicap of its ability is hardly noticeable. It evolves a bit late, but even as Archon, it's broken. I mean, look at that. What a beast. That's how it would be, but yeah, when I said that this is the generation in which more completely different teams you can make, I wasn't kidding. Just look at the Titans that have been left out. In Black and White 2, Unova finally opens its borders to Pokemon from other regions, and the variety increases even more, but the Three Stooges are still non-negotiable for me. Now, Braviary enters like a Tempest, obtainable very soon, and although at a time a little complicated for it, remains the best flying type of the game until the end. The rest remains the same, mainly for keeping the balance of types, although it pains me a lot to leave out Cinccino. Unlike the previous game, it's obtainable early with its hidden ability, and it's also an abuse at a level you can't imagine, but it's fine. Okay, in X and Y, the question is, who will go with Lucario? You could make a team with it and 5 unknown and the game would still have the same difficulty, but although this is somehow a meme already, actually quite a few more Mega Evolutions besides it are just as abusive. To make it more interesting, we are going to structure it thinking that only one member of our team is going to Mega Evolve, because if not, what are we even doing here? Just not repeats its fighting type, and Greninja and Lucario in the same team is too shonen even for me. Otherwise, the 3 starters are really equal in terms of strength, but the factor that sets them apart is that the combination of Delphox's Psychic and Fire type can deal with everything in this game. Azumarill with its new Fairy type is finally able to bring out its true potential in this game, and the competitive god of this era, Aegislash, is so insanely good that we can make an exception for the repeated Steel type for this one. A good Venusaur closes a team that makes no sense at all, although other options switching the Mega, the starter, and the companions around it have nothing to envy it. Will the moon be envious of the sun for shining with its own light? Sorry, I had to get at least one fiery quote into the video. Sun and Moon also have a great Pokedex, so let's have fun with the team for the Island Challenge. Primarina is the most optimal starter in terms of important battles. It does amazing, and except for a certain traumatic event that my mind has blocked out, that also applies to the Totem Pokemon. However, there is a small conflict here, and it's that, don't jump down my throat for this, I consider that Pelipper eats this generation. Literally, it just swallows it whole. You get it just starting the Island Challenge? The Flying Water type is absurdly good in the important battles of the game, and the main thing, its Drizzle plus the TM Scald just on the second island is too much to say no to. In a normal situation, just that would be enough to rule out Primarina for the sake of not repeating types. But of course, Decidueye is by far the starter that suffers the most in important fights of this generation. Its weird stats don't help either. Incineroar is quite better, but keeping one with Drizzle and a fire type in the same team doesn't seem to make much sense, right? So I think it might be a good idea for this game to go against my principles again and take them both in a team precisely set up to play with Rain. That's something that can rarely be executed so well in game, but this one seems to be made for it. Magnemite is another amazing Pokemon for these games that fits wonderfully in that context. It's caught very early, being probably the best option against the first two totems, and although it can't evolve into Magnezone until the Vast Pony Canyon quite late in the game, as Magneton it's already very good, maybe even better than Magnezone thanks to the Eviolite, also available quite early. As if that wasn't enough, as a Steel type, it benefits a lot from the Rain that helps with its weakness to fire, and as an electric, well, you know, Thunder. The team is lacking something against grass types so far, which again is not good in this game, so Alolan Grimer is next. A powerful Pokemon that will accompany us from the beginning and covers the few remaining open flanks, such as the Ether Foundation. There are only 4 members and it's already a scary team, but we can complete it with a powerful Mud Sail and a beautiful Lycanroc that cover weaknesses, and in the case of the second one, bring some speed that the team urgently needed. As for the Ultra Editions, that Rain strategy could also work if it were not for the fact that you get Scald at the end of the game instead of the beginning, which makes it lose quite a few points. So this time let's structure the team around the infamous perfect Hawlucha trade on Route 1. You know I'm not a fan of Pokemon that evolve by trading, but Gengar can be found in the wild in this game, and using Destiny Bond with Ultra Necrozma is too tempting not to put it in. Galar is interesting from the get-go in terms of team building. The 3 starters are more balanced than ever. The friendly Rillaboom is the Pokemon I've grown most fond of in the game, and the pathetically adorable Sobble totally slays after getting its license to kill, but I'm just not getting back on an elevator without Cinderace in my life. Overall, gyms and important battles are very balanced. In fact, the types of the first 3 gyms are the basic type triangle, so no matter who you choose, the challenge is going to be similar. But the differential factor of Macrocosmos makes a fast and offensive fire type something very precious, especially if you prefer to use native Pokemon, as is my case. Keep in mind that it's complicated to make a standard team this time because the wild area makes too wide the possibilities. It also depends a lot on the conditions that the player is in. So this will be just one option of many more out there. All of them are great Pokemon. Some, like Barraskewda, are quite underrated and work great when they can be captured. So that's how I get rid of a lot of content that I could have made for each of the generations in just one video. Business is not my thing, but I hope you had fun. Check out some of my other videos where we explore many more mysteries and incredible secrets. Be nice, and I'll see you soon.